majlis of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That his majlis was a majlis of hilm and ilm and haya and sabr and waqar and amanat. لا ترفع فيه الأصوات ولا توبن فيه الحرم. Voices were not raised in the masjid. لا توبن فيه الحرم. I translated it yesterday as haram stuff was not discussed in that majlis. There was no haram gossip like ghibat, slandering, etc. Another translation is لا توبن فيه الحرم, meaning ihtiram and adab, respect of anyone was not violated in there. किसी की बेअदबी न की जाती उस मजलिस में. और ला तुनसा फलतातुहु, if anyone made a mistake, then that mistake would not be spread out and among the community. يتعاطفون بالتقوى, they would sympathize with one another based on taqwa. متواضعين, Sahaba were really, really humble. They had a golden heart, most purest of hearts. And يوقرون فيه الكبير ويرحمون الصغير. Today we are reading فسألته عن سيرته صلى الله عليه وسلم في جلسائه. Sayyiduna Hussein says, I inquired from him, meaning my father Hazrat Ali Karramallahu Wajhahu, regarding Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam's seerat and behavior with regards to those who sat in his gathering. فقال, he replied, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم دائم البشر. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was always cheerful and smiling. Sahl al-khuluq, very gentle in character. Layyin al-janib, very soft in his nature. Laysa bifadhin wala ghaliz, he was never rude in speech, nor was he hard-hearted. Wala sakhabin, he was never one who would scream a lot. وَلَا فَحَاشٍ, nor was he one who would use any vulgar, abusive language. وَلَا عَيَّابٍ, he would not look for faults in people. وَلَا مَدَّاحٍ, nor would he praise excessively. يَتَغَافَلُ عَمَّا لَا يَشْتَهِي, he would neglect and overlook that which he did not desire. وَلَا يُؤْيِسُ مِنْهُ, however, he would not make others lose hope of it. قَدْ تَرَكَ نَفْسَهُ مِنْ ثَلَاثٍ, he had saved himself from 3 habits. كَانَ لَا يَذُمُّ أَحَدًا, he would never لا إله إلا الله. قد ترك نفسه من 3: الرياء والإكثار وما لا يعنيه. He had saved himself and abandoned and left out 3 things: riya, showing off; ikthar, excessive talk; ma la ya'nihi, matters which did not concern him. وَتَرَكَ النَّاسَ عَنْ ثَلَاثٍ, he had saved other people from 3 things. كَانَ لَا يَذُمُّ أَحَدًا وَلَا يُعَيِّرُهُ, he would never criticize anyone. وَلَا يُعَيِّرُهُ وَلَا يَطْلُبُ عَوْرَتَهُ, he would not taunt anyone, nor would he go after their weaknesses. وَلَا يَتَكَلَّمُ إِلَّا فِي مَا يَرْجُو ثَوَابَهُ, he would not speak except with words in which he anticipated some reward. وَإِذَا تَكَلَّمَ أَطْرَقَ جُلَسَاؤُهُ كَأَنَّمَا عَلَى رُؤُوسِهِمْ الطَّيْرُ, when he would speak, his attendees would lower their heads as though there were birds on their heads. وَإِذَا سَكَتَ تَكَلَّمُوا. It is only when he became silent that they would speak. لَا يَتَنَازَعُونَ عِنْدَهُ الْحَدِيثِ. They would not quarrel to speak in his presence. مَنْ تَكَلَّمَ عِنْدَهُ أَنْصَتُوا لَهُ حَتَّى يَفْرُغَ. When one of them would speak in his presence, they would remain silent until he finished. حديثهم حديث أولهم. Their talk was treated like the first person's talk, meaning they would listen attentively to everyone and would not be bored of it thinking it has no value. يضحك مما يضحكون. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam would laugh and smile at what they laughed at. وَيَعْجَبُ مِمَّا يَعْجَبُونَ. He would be surprised at what they were surprised at. وَيَصْبِرُ لِلْغَرِيبِ عَلَى الْجَفْوَةِ فِي الْمَنْطِقِ. He would be patient when newcomers would speak to him harshly. وَيَقُولُ. He would say, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمْ صَاحِبَ الْحَاجَةِ يَطْلُبُهَا فَارْفِدُوهُ. When you see someone in need asking around, then help him. وَلَا يَطْلُبُ الثَّنَاءَ إِلَّا مِن مُكَافِئٍ. He would not allow praise except from someone who was saying something in gratification, meaning in lieu of some kindness which he had shown to him. وَلَا يَخْطَعُ عَلَى أَحَدٍ حَدِيثَهُ حَتَّى يَتَجَوَّزَهُ فَيَقْطَعُهُ بِإِنْتِهَاءٍ أَوْ قِيَامٍ. He would not cut off someone's speech unless the person exceeded the limits. Then he would cut it by finishing the session or by simply standing up to leave. وفي رواية, and in another narration, قلت كيف كان سكوته صلى الله عليه وسلم. I asked my father, Hazrat Ali, how was he when he was silent? قال كان سكوته على أربع. He replied, his silence was based on four things: على الحلم والحذر والتقدير والتفكر. Upon hilm, meaning forbearance. Upon hadar, means being cautious, careful and alert. والتقدير, meaning management of affairs, estimating everything and doing everything in an organized manner. والتفكر, and tafakkur, contemplation and pondering. Then he explained the four. فأما تقديره ففي تسوية النظر والاستماع بين الناس. As for his management of affairs, so that was in him being fair in paying attention to people and in listening to the concerns of people. وأما تفكره ففيما يبقى ويفنى. As for his contemplation, that was over what will remain and what will perish, meaning baqi and fani, that this world will perish whereas the hereafter is everlasting. وجمع له الحلم في الصبر فكان لا يغضبه شيء يستفزه. His forbearance was combined with patience. Therefore, nothing made him so angry that he would lose his composure. وَجُمِعَ لَهُ الْحَذَرُ فِي الْحَذَرِ أَرْبَعٌ. Four things were combined for him in his alertness. أَخْذُهُ بِالْحَسَنِ لِيُقْتَدَى بِهِ. He would hold firmly onto the good so that he can be followed by others. وَتَرْكُهُ الْقَبِيحَ لِيُنْتَهَى عَنْهُ. And he would abandon the base and disgusting things so that others can leave them too. وَاجْتِهَادُ الرَّأْيِ بِمَا أَصْلَحَ أُمَّتَهُ. And he would exhaust his efforts in forming an opinion that would rectify the condition of his ummah. وَالْقِيَامُ لَهُمْ بِمَا جَمَعَ لَهُمْ مِنْ أَمْرِ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. And finally, number 4, he would advocate and accomplish for people matters which would bring together the best of this life and the life after death. Here comes to a close the hadith of Sayyiduna Hassan and Sayyiduna Hussein. What did we read today? Let's just go over it once more. Sayyiduna Hussein says, I inquired from my father regarding his behavior with his amnashin, julasa, those who were attending his majlis. And he said, Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam was da'imul bishr. Bishr means bashasha, cheerfulness, smiling. He was of a cheerful and smiling nature. He was always, warm in welcoming people. Sahl al-khuluq, very gentle in his characters, akhlaq, behavior. Layyin al-janib, very soft in nature. Layyin, soft, janib, tarjama nature. Laysa bi faddin wala ghaliz. He was neither rude, coarse, nor was he hard-hearted. He was never rude in speech. His speech would be very full of adab and soft and kindness. And wala ghaliz, he was never hard-hearted. He was a very soft-hearted person. Wala sakhab, he would never scream at the top of his voice. Wala fahash, fuhsh means gandi batein, abusive language, vulgar language. And sometimes it's also used for language which is of sexual nature, and also language in which there is swearing, abuse. So he would never use any vulgar language. Wala ayyab, he would not find faults in people and criticize them. Wala madda, nor would he praise excessively. His praise would also be moderate. He would praise the Sahaba upon the good qualities, but one is excessive praise, over the top. So he would not go over the top in praising someone. He would praise to limits and what was just enough and balanced. يتغافل عما لا يشتهي. He would do taghaful, neglect and overlook those things which he did not desire. If he didn't desire something, he would just ignore it. Don't pay attention to it. وَلَا يُوِيسُ مِنْهُ. If someone else wanted to take it, he wouldn't make him mayus and lose hope of it. You want it, you take it. I don't desire it, I'm not taking it. For example, he was once on the Dastarkhan, food was brought to him. Ummul said, tell him what you are putting in front of him. So they told him, Ya Rasulullah, this meat is the meat of iguana. Go, ka goshte. Nabi Pak said, oh, I'm not eating that. He ate other things, but he did not eat that meat. Sayyiduna Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu asked, Ya Rasulullah, is it haram? And he said, no, it's not haram, but it wasn't in our homeland, so I just cringe from it and I don't like it. So Sayyiduna Khalid radiallahu anhu pulled it towards himself and he started eating it while Nabi Pak was looking. So he did not like it, he did not desire it, he neglected it. But if someone else wanted it, he would say, take it if you want, no problem. And then قَدْ تَرَكَ نَفْسَهُ مِنْ ثَلَاثٍ. He had saved himself from 3 things. Riya, he would never show off. Showing off is a bad habit. He would never show off. He would never do anything to show people. He was the greatest mukhlis and sincere person you could ever think of. Wal iksar. Over here as a Tanvi translated iksar as iksarul kalam. He would not talk excessively. Al iksar is general. It means to do something or take something in abundance, excessive. He would mean he would not talk a lot, or he would not gather a lot of wealth and property and dunya. So he left himself from iksar and excessiveness, either in talking or other matters. And number 3, ma la ya'nihi, he saved himself from layani things. Anything that did not concern him, he would not pay attention to it. Some people like doing chikni, always butting into other people's affairs. This is layani stuff. Why do you want to investigate other people's affairs? So he was never that type of person. And وَتَرَكَ النَّاسَ مِنْ ثَلَاثٍ. He saved others from 3 things. He wouldn't do 3 things with other people. What were they? كَانَ لَا يَذُمُّ أَحَدًا وَلَا يُعَيِّرُهُ وَلَا يَطْلُبُ عَوْرَتَهُ. He would never criticize anyone. Criticizing is a bad habit. Always criticizing. Ye aisa na, wo aisa na, fulan aisa na, tu aisa na, tera baap aisa na, teri maa aisi. What is all this behavior? وَلَا يُعَيِّرُهُ. He would never taunt anyone. عَيَّرَ आर दिलाना. किसी से कोई गलती हो गई हो तो उसको बार बार याद दिलाकर सबके सामने उसको शर्मिंदा करना. This is called ayyara. So he would never bring ar to anyone, taunt anyone. وَلَا يَطْلُبُ عَوْرَتَهُ. He would not go after the weaknesses of a person and always remind him of his weakness. This is a bad habit, to talk about his weakness and remind him of that. وَلَا يَتَكَلَّمُ إِلَّا فِي مَا يَرْجُو ثَوَابَهُ. He would only speak with words in which he hoped for some reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would say, مَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ فَلْيَقُلْ خَيْرًا أَوْ لِيَصْمُتْ. Whoever believes in Allah on the final day should speak something good or remain silent. So he himself practiced on what he preached. So he only spoke that in which there was some sawab. وَإِذَا تَكَلَّمَ. Perhaps this is why when he spoke, the hazirin, the attendees, would lower their heads. And they would be so calm and composed as though bird was sitting on their heads. When do birds sit? They sit on a statue which doesn't move. So they were motionless. They wouldn't move. They would listen so attentively to his speech that as though birds were sitting on their heads. وَإِذَا سَكَتَ تَكَلَّمُوا. When he remained silent, that is when they would speak. لَا يَتَنَازَعُونَ عِنْدَهُ الْحَدِيثِ. Tanazur means argue, quarrel, fight. They would not fight with one another to speak in his presence. They would not, if someone was speaking, the other one person would not butt in and try to interrupt him and take the speech away from him. They would let him speak. This is why مَنْ تَكَلَّمَ عِنْدَهُ أَنْصَتُوا لَهُ. If someone would speak in his presence, then they would remain silent for him حَتَّى يَفْرُغَ, until he finished his talk. Then they would say whatever they wanted to. They would not, sometimes everybody is speaking together. Nobody knows who's saying what. That was not the state of his majlis. Hadithuhum hadithu awwalihim. Their talk, meaning the person who would be speaking, would be like the person who was speaking the first time. Even if the majlis was long and he was speaking at the end, people would still treat him like he was the first person to speak. Meaning they would pay him full attention. And they would not criticize him or blame him or anything. Then in his majlis, يَضْحَكُ مِمَّا يَضْحَكُونَ وَيَعْجَبُ مِمَّا يَعْجَبُونَ. He would laugh at what they laughed at, and he would be surprised at what they were surprised at. Once someone asked Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu about the behavior of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, what can I say to you about his behavior and his akhlaq? We would be sitting in his majlis. If we would talk about dunya, he would talk with us about dunya. If we would talk about food, he would talk about food. If we would talk about something else, he would talk about that with us. Should I mention all this to you about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? We would sometimes talk about our days of Jahiliyyat and how we behaved in those Jahiliyyat times, and we would laugh at ourselves that I used to do this. Tawbah, astaghfirullah, how jahil was I? And we would talk about our behavior in the times of ignorance. He would listen and he would smile. Because in this was also a form of shukr that Allah guided us. We were like this, and if it was not for Allah guiding us, we would not have got hidayah. So he was a very calm and quiet person. He would sit in the majlis. He wouldn't be talking all the time. He would be silent. He would listen to others as well. And then وَيَصْبِرُ لِلْغَرِيبِ عَلَى الْجَفْوَةِ فِي الْمَنْطِقِ. He would be patient when newcomers would speak to him harshly. Some Bedouins would sometimes talk to him in a very harsh and rude manner. He would not get angry at them. He would understand that he's a newcomer, bichara. He's not well acquainted with the adab and etiquettes of majlis. He lives in a village, Bedouin life, and Bedouins are like that. So he would ignore them, ignore their behavior, and whatever they asked for, he would give them. Once some Bedouins got hold of him when he was returning, and they pulled his sheet from behind, and they said, Ya Muhammad, murli min malillahi alladhi indak, فَإِنَّكَ لَا تُعْطِي مِن مَالِكَ وَلَا مَالِ أَبِيكَ. Muhammad, give me some of that money which you have. It is the mal of Allah, not the mal of your father, nor yours. And Prophet ﷺ, he pulled him so hard that Prophet ﷺ fell on his chest at the back and his neck was bruised. And the upper garment sheet of the Prophet ﷺ was in the hands of the Bedouin. So he just turned around, smiled at him, and said, give him my sheet back. I need to cover my body. And then he said, Wallah, if I had gold and silver coins equivalent to the thorns of this large thorn tree, I would give all that out to you. I wouldn't keep anything for myself. So people won't find me a bakhil or a kazoob or jaban, a stingy or a liar or a coward. I don't want that bad name. I would have given it to you, but it's all distributed now. I've got nothing left. Where can I get it for you? Then he called upon Bilal, but if there is something left remaining, give them some stuff. So he would be very patient. Once a Bedouin came and he said, Ya Muhammad, didn't say Ya Rasulullah. He said, Ya Muhammad, when is Qiyamah? And Prophet ﷺ was never angry or anything at the question. He also smiled at him and he said, Ma adattalha. What have you prepared for the day of Qiyamah? क्या तैयारी की है क़यामत के दिन के लिए कि तू पूछ रहा है कब है क़यामत? तो वो बेचारा बेडवीन थोड़ा नरम पड़ गया, ढीला हो गया. And he said, well, I don't have much, but one thing I have is that I love Allah and His Rasul. So Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, then why you worried? You will be with the one whom you love. If you love Allah, Rasul will be with them on the day of Qiyamah. You shouldn't be worried. As Anas said, we're really happy at this answer because I love Allah, Rasul, I love Abu Bakr, I love Umar, I will be with them on the day of Qiyamah, inshallah. And this same person stood up from there and made dua. And he said, Allahumma arhamni wa Muhammada wa la tarham ma'ana ahada. Oh Allah, have mercy upon me and Muhammad and don't have mercy on anyone else. किसी और पर रहमत करना. And Prophet ﷺ said, لقد حجرت يا هذا واسعا. अरे भाई, खुदा की रहमत बहुत वसी है, तूने तंग कर दी. And the same Bedouin went on one side of the corner of the masjid. He sat down and started urinating. And Sahaba were really furious. And Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, don't stop him, leave him. Don't stop him. When he finished his urine, because there was no carpet, it was only earth, soil. When he finished, he said, bring a bucket of water and pour it over that area. Why scream at him? It's not good to stop someone who started urinating. It could cause sickness, illness. And then he called that person. And he said, my friend, you know, this masjid is not made for this. This masjid is made for salat, zikr, tilawat. That's what you should be doing in the masjid, not urinating in the masjid. So he was a beautiful teacher. He would never rebuke, taunt, or anyone, or shout or scream at them. These were his akhlaq. And then he would say, when you see someone in need, asking, begging, help him. And la yatlubu thana. In one riwayat, la yaqbalu thana. He would not accept praise except from one who was praising in gratification. Meaning, if he had done some favor to someone and he was doing just enough, kufu means barabar sarabar. जितना एहसान किया था उतनी ही तारीफ कर रहा, उससे ज्यादा नहीं. हुजूर ने उसको कुछ दिया था, वो जज़ाकल्लाह, शुक्रिया, thank you very much, you are a very nice man, you are a very nice person. So he would accept that. But if people went overboard, he would say, stop. Like some people came and he said, Ya Rasulullah, anta sayyiduna wa khayruna wa afzaluna wa ahabbuna ila Allah. And they said some words, and Prophet ﷺ said, but stop. Don't say anymore. He said, قُولُوا بِبَعْضِ قَوْلِكُمْ. Some of what you said was right, not all of it. So don't go overboard and exaggerate. He would say, لا تطروني كما أطرت النصارى عيسى ابن مريم فإنما أنا عبد فقولوا عبد الله ورسوله. Don't exaggerate in my praise like the Christians did with Isa alayhi salam, because I'm only a slave. So call me slave of Allah and messenger of Allah. This is, he would not accept sana and praise except from a person who was doing just enough. وَلَا يَقْطَعُ عَلَىٰ أَحَدٍ حَدِيثَهُ. If someone spoke in his majlis, he would not cut them off. Hey, chup kar, bas kar. He wouldn't do that. Stop. No need to. No, he would let him speak. حَتَّى يَتَجَوَّزَهُ. Until he would exceed the limits. He would go about something on and on. Then he still would not be rude to him. يَقْطَعُ بِانْتِهَاءٍ. He would cut off that talk by finishing the session or by standing up to leave the majlis. The person would understand that he did not like it. That's why he left the majlis and he stood up. And then that speech would be finished and completed. आगे वो फिर रिवायतें मैंने पढ़ तो लिया था, यही तशरीह कर लेंगे, बहुत टाइम हो गया है. उर्दू करना है कि समझ पड़ गई? समझ पड़ गई है साहब? चलो आज देर हो गई यार. इतना थोड़ा सा कर देता हूँ मैं. चलो, मैंने आपसे आपके हमनशीनों के बारे में क्या आदत शरीफा थी पूछी. फरमाया आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम हमेशा बशाशत से पेश आते थे, नरम अखलाक थे, नरम पहलू वाले थे, सख्त जुबान नहीं थे, सख्त दिल नहीं थे, शोर मचाने वाले नहीं थे, गंदी बातें करने वाले नहीं थे, किसी का ऐब तलाश करने वाले नहीं थे, न किसी की बहुत ज़्यादा तारीफ़ें करने वाले थे. जो चीज़ आपको न चाहे, जो चीज़ आपको पसंद न हो तो उससे तगाफुल बरतते, लेकिन दूसरे को उससे मायूस न करते. अपने आप को 3 बातों से छोड़ रखा था. एक तो रियाकारी और दिखावा से, दूसरे बहुत बकबक करने से, और तीसरे लायानी बातों से. और लोगों को 3 चीज़ों से छोड़ रखा था. कभी किसी की बुराई न करते, न कि कभी किसी को आर दिलाते, न कभी किसी की कमज़ोरियाँ ढूंढते, और आप गुफ्तगू न फरमाते मगर ऐसी गुफ्तगू कि जिसमें कोई सवाब की उम्मीद रखते हों. जब आप बोलते तो आपके हमनशी अपनी गर्दन झुका लेते, ऐसा महसूस होता कि उनके सरों पर परिंदे आकर बैठ गए हैं. और जब आप खामोश होते तब वो बोलते, और आपकी मौजूदगी में वो बात करने के लिए एक दूसरे से झगड़ते नहीं थे. جب آپ گفتگو فرماتے، جو کوئی بھی آپ کی موجودگی میں گفتگو کرتا تو سب دھیان سے اس کی بات سنتے یہاں تک کہ وہ فارغ ہو جائے، اور ان کی گفتگو ایسی ہوتی جیسے پہلے آدمی کی گفتگو ہو، اتنے دھیان اور توجہ سے سنتے، آپ ہنستے ان باتوں پر جن پر وہ ہنستے، آپ تعجب کرتے ان باتوں پر جن پر وہ تعجب کرتے، اور کوئی اجنبی مسافر سخت کلامی کرتا تو آپ اس پر صبر فرماتے، اور آپ لوگوں سے کہتے جب تم دیکھو کوئی ضرورت مند اپنی ضرورت پیش کر رہا ہے، مانگ رہا ہے، تو اس کی کچھ نہ کچھ مدد ضرور کر دو، اور آپ تعریف قبول نہ کرتے مگر ایسے شخص کی طرف سے جو برابر سرابر کر رہا ہو، اور آپ کسی کی بات کو کاٹ نہ دیتے یہاں تک کہ وہ حد پار کر جاتا تو پھر اس کو اس طرح کاٹتے کہ مجلس ختم فرما دیتے یا اٹھ کھڑے ہوتے اور چل دیتے۔ آگے وفی روایتیں بعد میں پڑھیں گے۔ سبحان اللہ بحمدہ، سبحان اللہ بحمدہ، نشہد ان لا الہ الا انت نستغفرک ونتوب الیک۔ لا إله إلا الله سيدنا ونبينا وشفيعنا وحبيبنا وسندنا ومولانا محمد رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. لا إله إلا الله، 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 لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله، 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 لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله، 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 لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله، 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 لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. illallah, 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 illallah. Illallah, 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 illallah. Illallah, 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 la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa baraka wa sallam tasliman kathiran kathira. Allahullah, 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 Allah لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. يا رب صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. هو الحبيب الذي ترجى شفاعته لكل غول من الأهوال مقتحم. الله حاضري الله ناظري الله معي الله حاضري الله ناظري الله معي الله حاضري الله ناظري الله معي. أستغفر الله أستغفر الله أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. اللهم لك الحمد ولك الشكر. اللهم لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين. یا ارحم الراحمین، معاذ اپنے فضل و کرم سے ہمارا ٹوٹا پھوٹا ذکر قبول فرما لیجئے. ہم سب کو ذکر کی برکتیں نصیب فرمائیے، ذکر کے انوار نصیب فرمائیے. ذکر کے ذریعے آپ کا قرب، آپ کی محبت، آپ کی معیت، آپ کی معرفت عطا فرمائیے. ہم سب کو عارفین، واصلین، کاملین، ذاکرین، شاغلین میں شمار فرمائیے. الذاکرین اللہ کثیرا والذاکرات میں ہمارا شمار فرمائیے. ہماری کوتاہیاں، کمزوریاں، سستیاں، غفلتیں، خطائیں در سے معاف فرمائیے، درگزر فرمائیے. یا اللہ ذکر پر پابندی نصیب فرمائیے. یا اللہ جن اکابر مشاہد نے ہم کو ذکر سکھایا، یا اللہ زندہ اور مرحومین، یا اللہ سب پر اپنی رحمتیں نازل فرمائیے، سب کے درجات بلند فرمائیے. یا اللہ ہمارے ماں باپ کے اوپر بھی خاص رحم فرمائیے، ان کے درجے بلند فرمائیے. ہمارے بیوی بچوں کو بھی نیک اور صالح آنکھوں کی ٹھنڈک خوشی کا ذریعہ بنائیے. ہماری اس جگہ کو بھی دوسری کو بھی قبول فرمائیے. ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا انك انت التواب الرحيم. صلی اللہم وسلم علی سیدنا محمد وآلہ وصحبہ اجمعین برحمتک یا ارحم. اشراق کا ٹائم ہو گیا پیروز بھائی؟ اچھا اجالا تو ہو گیا ہے یار. چلو گھر جا کر پڑھ لیں گے انشاءاللہ. اللہ